I wanted to start by asking about this idea of fair game in Scientology, and some of these stories that have come out largely from your research about some of the attacks and things that have been done against critics of Scientology, and then how you decided to take on this project even knowing about some of that, some of what you might face.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was the founder, L. Ron Hubbard, who established this idea of fair game. It's a policy that he's supposedly rescinded, but the practice has never stopped. In fact, it goes on even to today. Some of our interviewees in the movie have been harassed and followed by private investigators here when they arrived at the airport. So, but the idea is that anybody who defects or criticizes Scientology is basically a criminal. And all you have to do is really investigate and find the crimes that they're guilty of. And anything you do in terms of harassment or that kind of behavior is to be accepted, because those persons are not worthy of respect.
Have you, either of you, encountered any trouble since working on the book or since working on the documentary?
Nothing close to what the former members have experienced.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. They've really been presented with a tremendous barrage. I mean, even in the film, as you saw, Marty Rathbun has people with GoPros on his head show up at all hours, menace his wife, make her feel extremely uncomfortable, surveil them from a house across the way. It's creepy. Other people have their garbage, rifled through to see if they can find materials, and it's all in the service of trying to smear people. Now, when Larry did his New Yorker piece, the Church of Scientology produced its own version of the New Yorker magazine.
Right. Yeah.
With a very glossy paper, I might add. David Remnick, the editor, was somewhat jealous.
With me on the cover
Right.
as a cartoon.
So they have ways, but there's nothing they've done so far to me that, or to Larry, that would come close to what they've done to some of these former members.
It's just been legal threats.
Okay, and what was the process of vetting the movie with fact checkers and with lawyers? I read that HBO had about 160 lawyers on the project. Is that right?
That comes from a Sheila Nevins interview where she sort of joked, "Oh yeah, we've got 160 lawyers on that." It ended up being reported throughout the country because, as they say, it was a fact too good to check.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, look, HBO's lawyers scrutinized it. I always have my own lawyer who rigorously looks at these things, and he checked it out. And there were a few other lawyers who got involved. So we felt pretty confident that what we were doing was properly buttoned up.
And what about the process of clearing footage for the movie? I loved the writing that you've done about Scientology, but it's also quite another thing to be able to see, David Miscavige at these big events with pyrotechnics, and just to be able to see that yourself, or Tom Cruise's birthday party with David Miscavige.
In Larry's book, you get a tremendous level of detail and an insight into all the tributaries of this religion. But I think one of the things you get in the film is a visceral sense of what it's like to be in the church, what it's like to experience David Miscavige and L. Ron Hubbard firsthand. And I think that our ability to get some of those materials that allow you to see up close what it's like to be inside the church is quite powerful.
Right.